Alright guys, welcome back this week. Last week we kind of wrapped up on getting the display installed and we're able to take a look at that, see what that looks like. Still got to finish up on the wiring, but for now we got to use the factory dash to basically sniff the CAN bus like I mentioned. Got all that wrapped up outside of the CAN bus stuff. This week we're going to be focusing on the fuel system. So let's take a look at the engine bay and then what we're working with. So this is what it looks like right now. So we're going to pull out the intake manifold, kind of have this in here just temporarily for now. Got the catch can temporarily mounted up with our 3D printed bracket. We're going to get that made out of metal soon. Because I am not running the hydraulic power steering pump anymore, I do need to make a bracket that comes up here so that way we can use for our beauty plate. I didn't think about that with the actual power steering pump. It has it built in the top, so just gotta fab that up and then I can send all my brackets over and get those created. So for now, let's take a look at what we got and we'll go from there. All right, so we've got a box of a bunch of different fittings from Pergola. We've got Vibrant, we've got some hoses in here. That's for our catch can. So let's go ahead and get some of these pulled out and see where we need to put them, get this fuel system all situated, and we'll start making some lines. All right, so let's go ahead and get this intake manifold removed. I was using the IEG fuel lines, but decided to go my own route just so I can have custom routing. I use their kit kind of for fitment purposes, but we're going to use our own at this point. Alright, so I did do something a little different on the crossover. I've got these 35mm standoffs, so basically use threads instead of bolts on these, and then I've got 3 of the 4 bolts set up with the 35mm standoffs. We'll use those with little P-clips to kind of hold the lines where we want them to be so they're somewhat rigid, not flexing around and rubbing on and everything. So I think that's going to look nice. Let's focus on the rear hose first. I did convert these to 8 AN. Return is going to be 6 AN, so I've got a 90 8 AN on the passenger side, and then I've got a 8 AN T off the driver's side. So we're going to have one that goes straight across. We're going to give a little bit of slack in there so that way it can get mounted out of the way. And then we've got a 90 that's going to go from that T down to the radium fuel filter. So let's get that line made. We'll take you guys through the process on that. We are using PTFE on all the fuel lines, with the exception of the rubber line that radium includes for the return, but we're doing PTFE basically to the regulator, and then the return from the regulator will be that rubber hose. So get this out. All right, so we do have our aluminum jaws that we're going to put in our vise. That way it protects the fittings. I am going to wipe them off because I do use them for quite a few things. We do have the Milwaukee Portaband with the swag stand. We did pick that up new. We'll use that. We've got the fine tooth. I think this is like 12 or 14 that we use to cut the PTFE line. So for this project, we are using the Pergola PTFE line. Really like this stuff because it's basically dual insulated. It's got obviously the PTFE core, and then it's got the stainless steel wire outside, and then it's all wrapped by this black plastic. So you just cut a little bit of the end off where the olive actually seats on here, so that way the tolerances are where they need to be, but you've got this plastic-like coating on the outside that keeps everything pretty nice and clean. So that's what we use. We've got the 8AN and then the 6AN. I'm gonna have to go grab a fan because it's already starting to get hot. Try to come out here early to beat the heat. Yesterday was 115. Today's gonna be 115 also. So I'm gonna try to work as quickly as possible. I am gonna cut the end off of this so we get a fresh start. Only because previously I was using a grinder to cut these and not a bandsaw, so it's not exactly the straightest cut. As always, using eye protection. I don't love that, honestly. I don't love it. I might go back to the grinder. Well, basically I clamp in here. I'm gonna put some electrical tape on the edge to keep this nice and tight. Clean this up. That's unfortunate. I was hoping that saw would work out, but here's what it is. The reason why I do this is it keeps all the strands nice and tight as you're cutting them. It could also give you a gauge if you're cutting right in the middle of the electrical tape. There we go. Much more clean. Put the tape off. And then I like to clean the ends. A bit of rubbing alcohol. Some Q-tips to get all that grime out of there. Now we will be flushing these out after, but that's what we need for now. On the black sleeving, you cut back maybe about 1/2 inch. Actually, you know what? I think you put the nut on first. WD-40. For these, I would advise gloves or at a minimum a towel, so that way you're not pricking yourself. Cut back a 1/2 inch. And then we got to peel back the steel braiding so we can put the olive in there. So I usually use just a little pick. Just run it around the outside like that. Put the olive in till it sits flat with the face. Doesn't take much. It's flat. Take the fitting and spray that up also. Never really want a dry thread, so put that in there till it bottoms out, and then you run your nut up. And we've got that started nicely, so we'll get that in the vise, we'll get that tightened down. Sometimes these can be a little finicky. Try to clamp them down. There we go. Now you don't need to tighten it all the way down so the gap is gone. You typically want to leave like a 1/16 of an inch maybe. Mine tightened all the way down, so we'll call that good. There we go. One side's done. Gotta wipe off any of the aluminum markings. So now we've got 8A and 90 installed. So let's get that in the car and then we'll trim this for length. So I do want to get this kind of tight and away from everything as possible, so a few of these P-clamps that we'll use to basically tie this down. Nice. A little bit of space around that. Perfect. And run this over here. I'm gonna take that off, run it underneath this.
idea behind test fitting is you want it to rest where it's going, where you're going to have it permanently. So best bet is to mock it up like you're fully installing it and then cut for length when you're done. Right. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is run the return to make sure that everything is where I want it to be. So, because I may not use this P-clip, I may have this just mounted to the return line. So I'm going to go make this line really quick off camera and then we'll be right back. Alright, so I got this line made off camera. I've got it mounted to the 35mm standoff using a P-clip there, and then I just 3D printed a little bracket here that'll get made up when I make all my other brackets. That's going to hold the 8 AN line there. We can zip tie this so that way they look good and they're away from the 2 AN lines. And then I've got P-clip, P-clip. So now I can cut this for final length, and then we've got the 6 AN here. It's going to come all the way up and go into this, I think it's 150 degree fitting back there. So we'll do it just like that. Get that away from everything. And we should be good. So let's get some tape. We'll mark these off and then we'll cut them. Okay. All right. Get these lines removed, cut, and then install the fittings offline, and then we'll be right back. All right, so I've got these 2 lines created. I just spent the last 2 hours trying to find my leak tester for these, and I can't find them. So I'm just going to clean them out and see what I can do. This looks stupid long. Oh. Okay. Probably gonna have to cut this line because it looks really long. Yeah, it's too long. What a pain in the ass, man. I should have test fit it instead of before putting it on, and I didn't. Alright, cut this just a little bit shorter. Put a new olive in there. So let's go ahead and test fit this one. Nice. So this one goes like this. goes like this. I did prick my fingers a few times, unfortunately, because I'm not wearing any gloves. So, piece of advice, wear some gloves. Okay, that's good. Something like that. Let's get this one in there, see if that fits. Aluminum fittings are picky. All right. Okay, that looks good. This looks good. All right, let's work on this return. This is done. This one's going to take a 45 and a 90, so let me go make that line real quick and I'll be right back. Alright, so I've got the 45-degree installed here. I've got the worm clamp, or not the worm clamp, but the P-clamp with your bolt. We've got a 90 that's going to go over here. Something like that. Actually go right to the edge of where the blue tape is, so that'll be good. And cut the line. I'm gonna go get that cut and terminate it. I'll be right back. All right, got the other return line done, so let's throw this in and see if it fits. Get the correct size clamp. At least for now. And again, it's kind of long. I really gotta get better at test fitting before actually assembling, because I gotta take that back apart and waste another olive. Man. Well. It's gotta be done. It's gotta be done. Alright, so took 2 or 3 tries to get this to fit. I think it fits good, so let's get it installed and we should be good. That'll work. It's not touching anything. Zip tie these together like that. Good. It came out really nice. Let's try this. Just need to make a 8 AN for the feed, so 90 in a straight. And we'll get that made. I'll be right back. On the very last fitting, I learned, do not crimp it down until you test fit it. So let's do that. All right, I'm happy with that. So let's get this crimped down. And we'll be right back. All right, got that last line made up, so let's get this installed. All right. So, well, I guess that's all of the PTFE lines. I just got to cut this one return line that goes onto the, goes onto the ethanol content sensor. So, should be good there. All right, so for the return line, I just marked this out. Gonna cut it at the longest part, which is right here. So we're good. And then this is gonna have push lock, but I'm also using a Gates thermocoupler. Actually, I'm gonna put some oil on here so that way when I get into the engine bay I can move this as I need, hopefully. I'm actually going to put this on first, get in the engine bay and push it until where I need it, and then I'll shrink it. And this basically heat shrinks over it like that. So let me get this back installed so I can get this oriented the way I need it. I'll be right back. Alright, so I was able to get this heat shrunk. I used the Gates thermocoupler, and then I put some protective sleeve on here, and then I put some more heat shrink itself with adhesive lined. So that way it gives me a nice terminated look, and I ran that up quite a bit of distance. So we'll get this threaded back into the engine bay, installed, and then we'll kind of go over what the entire fuel system looks like. Alright, so looking at the full fuels kit setup, we've got the radium dual pump hanger and the fuel tank with two of the Hellcat 525s, so they have the check valves. The 535s do not have the check valves. And then we've got the iWire dual pump harness kit that'll be supplying the electrical side. We also have the radium install kit, so we've got their feed line and return line going all the way down. Got their little mounting bracket here. This is where the loom that I've added to the rubber line starts. And we've got that ran all the way up, zip tied. And then we've got the radium mount right there for the filter. And then we've got the return line still plumbed all the way up there. And you can see just right up top, it plumbs right into the flex fuel sensor. So let me bring you up on top and show you what that looks like. Alright, so up top, we've got the return line here, plumbed into the ethanol content sensor. I did create a bracket, kind of bolts right to the back of the IEG/Aeromotive fuel pressure regulator. So we've got all those lines terminated. This is what we've got up front for the fuel rails. We've got the IEG fuel rails. We've got 6 AN return. We've got 8 AN feed. So starting at the feed line, it comes up to the T. We've got a 90-degree fitting there. We've got our 8 AN T. The T's off the driver's side fuel rail. Got it coming over here straight. Got it mounted with these P-clips going right into the passenger side fuel rail with a 90. And then return 6 AN mounted. That goes up to the 150-degree fitting on top of the regulator. And then the other side has a 45. I don't know if you can see that. 45-degree goes down, is mounted here, comes around, we've got adequate clearance by the pump, and goes right into the 90-degree. For our injectors, we've got the Injector Dynamics 2600s, so that'll be more than enough for ethanol. Hopefully get us to our 1,000 mark. And that's what we've got for the fuel system. So I appreciate you guys joining us this week. Took a little bit longer. It's super hot out here. I've changed. I'm beyond sweating. So it's over 110 degrees today. Glad we were able to get this knocked out, finalized. Now we can start moving on to getting the intake manifold all plumbed up, and then start hopefully welding the intake piping and the exhaust piping. We'll catch you guys next time.